You clicked on this video because you want to learn how to play 2v2. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to become the best player in your 2v2 ranked games. And by the end of the video, you'll understand certain concepts that will help you be the most impactful player on the field. And these concepts allowed me to get top 100 in 2v2. And if you utilize these concepts, you'll also be ranking up in no time. But first, we need to understand positioning. And positioning around a teammate is 2v2. And I know it sounds stupid, but I'll get into why it makes sense. So in 2v2, positioning makes or breaks players. And sometimes it's the sole reason of why people rank up. If you have good positioning, you are a threat on the field. Because if you know how to position on the field, your mechanics will become so much more dangerous. And you'll also be able to contain pressure on the opponent's side of the field and keep the ball off of your side. And to do that, we need to understand the second man position. So getting started here on screen, we are going to be focusing on the orange second man. And in 2v2, we only have two things that we need to worry about as second man. And it's the first man's worst and best case scenario. And these two are dependent on our first man's play. So since we can't do anything but wait for first man to do their play, we have to put ourselves in the best possible position to cover both options. And that is why we want to position not directly behind first man, but a little bit outside of them. And because we do this, it gives us optimal coverage of the field. And what I like to say is cover the space that your first man can't cover. So that typically means the space behind him and also the space across the field from him. Which is why we typically want to position in the middle of the field as second man to cover all of that space on the field. But since we know how to position, we can get into the next part of second man. And that second part is what follows after. And what I mean by that is worst case scenario or best case scenario is going to happen. So I'm going to talk about our approach to each one and what we should do. And I'm going to start with our worst case scenario. So getting started with worst case scenario is when our first man loses the ball or the play. So when this happens, our objective as second man is to either buy time for first man to get back or to keep the ball in the opponent's half. And since we know how to position now, this should be extremely easy for us to do. If we need to buy time, we either need to take the ball back to our half and take a 50 or try to bait the opponents in. This allows for another interaction to happen and the opponent's second man has to wait rather than being on a full-on counterattack. And just to show you guys, here in this play, I do exactly that. After I get the boost, I play a really aggressive second man, which in turn, Ixo has to flick it past me. But I bought enough time where Devo can get full boost and get a free ball touch. But moving on to keeping the ball on the opponent's half. And basically, this is just another form of stalling for your teammate to get back. But since you're attacking, the opponents have to wait for whatever you have in store. And I would say this is usually more effective, but there is a huge risk to this. And that risk is overcommitting as second man. If you overcommit as second man, you effectively leave your teammate that just went in a 1v2. And if you've been paying attention to the gameplay, I literally just left Devo in that 1v2 scenario I am talking about. So even a top 100 twos player isn't free of these mistakes, meaning there is still room for improvement out of everybody. But now we're going to move on to the best case scenario. And this is when your first man actually wins the play and gets past one or two people. So as second man, when this happens, your role really hasn't changed except there's one extra step. And that extra step is being an option for your first man. And what that means is just putting yourself in a position where you're able to receive a pass if your first man wants to pass it. So basically, you're just staying in the midfield and just letting your first man do the work, but you're just waiting to receive that pass. And that pass could be coming off the backboard, another 50 from your teammate, or an open net miss, which we all know happens. But since now we know how to position as second man and the outcomes that we're supposed to expect as second man, let's get into first man. And first man's job in 2v2 is super simple and super direct. Your job as first man is just to outplay the opponents and to make it easier for your second man to score off of you. And this is usually what people struggle to get as first man. Is first man's job isn't to play for yourself, but for your teammate. And this is what a lot of high-ranked players use to win games. If you're able to use your mechanics as first man to get one or two out of a play and leave an open net for your second man every time, you will win so many more games. Doing mechanics as first man is difficult, just for the fact of you're not going to have much time because you are going to be insta-chowed. So learning how to do mechanics as first man is a really powerful tool. And I'll show you an example of what this looks like and how I made it easy for my second man to score. So in this example, I get a free ball from Devo demoing him, and I take a soft touch up to myself, grab my reset, and shoot the ball, which forces two of them to commit, and it leaves Devo with an open net. And this is what I mean by being able to break down your opponents as first man, leaving an open net or a free ball for your second man. It doesn't matter how you do it, you just need to leave your second man in a good position, because if you make your teammates' life easy, you'll win so many more games. Think of it like this. You blame your teammates constantly, but what if you just made it so easy for them that they can't make mistakes? And I know some of you are going to say that they would have made the mistake anyway, but it's not the mistake that they make that matters. It's what you're doing to make their life easier. And when you make your teammates' life easier, you make your life easier. And the only other thing I would have for first man is getting out and getting boost and going to a second man position after your play is done. But other than that, those two steps are basically all first man has to do. So now that we understand how to position as first and second man and we understand the concepts behind it, let's move on to our second concept of the video. Our second concept of the video is going to be to simplify everything that you're doing. And what I mean by that is everything that you've learned or are currently learning in 2v2, try to simplify it and make it easy for yourself. Because if you're able to simplify it down and make it easier to understand, you're going to become a lot faster at recognizing it and being able to perform it. So for example, if you wanted to simplify your aerial mechanics, every time you would get the ball in the air, you would try to simplify it down to either an air dribble or a single flip reset. Nothing flashy and nothing crazy, because if you want to score, the simple things work. And this helped me bridge the gap from mid to high SSL to top 100. A lot of these time, these pro players aren't doing your double, triple flip resets to score. They're doing your simple air dribble bumps, double taps, and flip resets. Nothing flashy and nothing extra. Their goal is to score and try to win the game. And they're able to do it so efficiently that it makes them pro players. For another example, if you wanted to simplify your positioning as second man, you would take your two outcomes and make decisions based off of them, and narrow it down to two simple decisions. And what I mean by that is thinking, hey, should I fake here or should I take this 50 with the first man to allow my teammate to get back? And what most people tend to do is they tend to overthink the second man position, and it makes them hesitate and do a lot of stupid stuff that they normally wouldn't do. So just by simplifying everything in your gameplay is going to make your entire game just flow so much better. And this is why pro players and high ranked players look so fast compared to other ranks, is because they've simplified everything that they've learned so they can perform it at a faster pace. Which is going to bring us to our next concept of pacing. And we've already talked about one big part, and that was the simplification of your mechanical and positional aspect of your game. And for the second point that I have for this is we've already briefly talked about it, but it's going to be getting into your positions at the right time. And this is the biggest part of pacing. Because instead of moving extremely fast, what if you were just in the right spot every time? That means you wouldn't have to move, but you're also the first one to the ball every time. But obviously we do want to move a little bit so we can have momentum. So what this really entails is just to be moving super slow, but not being parked. And the term for this is slow to fast. And you guys might have heard this from other pro players or other high ranked players. But being slow to fast is better than being fast to slow. Fast to slow is extremely readable because it limits your options and it makes you super readable. But if you're slow to fast, your options increase because not only were you slow and you were close to the ball, but now since you're speeding up, your options have increased by tenfold. So by mixing this with our second man positioning of playing behind our first man, if we can anticipate where the 50 is going to go, we can creep up to where the 50 is going to happen, making us slow, but we're also in the right spot at the right time. But remember to creep up extremely slow because we don't want to be too fast where if the play doesn't go as we expect, we're out of position, or if it does go as we expect, we're not going too fast where we're readable and we limit our options. But the key thing to remember with pacing is that it's more positional based rather than movement based. So if you're looking to increase your speed in 2v2, look for positional mistakes and not movement mistakes. Because when people tend to focus on movement, they tend to get really awkward and make themselves extremely readable for the other team. And for the last concept of this video, I'm going to be talking about autopiloting. We've all heard this term before, and everybody does it to some degree in Rocket League. And it is especially bad when you're trying to improve. Because when you're autopiloting, you are at your baseline. And when you're autopiloting, it doesn't increase or decrease. It just stays the same because you're letting your subconscious do all the work while you're mentally checked out. And what helped me stop autopiloting was calming what is happening in the game. It didn't matter if I was calming what I was doing, what my teammate was doing, what the opponents were doing. It just helped me stay focused and stay locked in on the current game. And if you're actually calming what's going on the field, you get more situational awareness on the field, and that skill increases. And situational awareness is a huge part of Rocket League, but we're not going to get into it in this video. But if you guys are interested in a situational awareness video, please let me know in the comments and I can make one, as it is one of the most important skills in Rocket League for every game mode. But moving back to autopiloting, if you can stop autopiloting, you will improve so much faster. So our job is to limit autopiloting, not stop it, because it is physically impossible to stop autopiloting because that is engraved into our biology. So by limiting the time we autopilot, we actually give ourselves some more time to improve during the day. But if you take all three of these concepts that I've talked about in the video and put it into your gameplay, you should see major improvement. But if this video was interesting to you and you would want something more personalized, I do coaching over on Ko-Fi, where I break down your replay and make all of the tips personalized to you. And not only that, but I show you how to implement them into your game so you can start seeing improvement faster. I also give you a custom training routine on top of it. But with that, if you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you more than you can know. And I would also appreciate if you could hit that subscribe and like button, as I am trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of this week. But if you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comments and I will respond to you. And with that, I have one more thing to tell you.